In the United States right now, we have this relatively new president, Donald Trump, and he is the second president who has been elected without winning the popular vote. So most people did not vote for Donald Trump. Most people who voted, voted against Donald Trump. This is the same thing that happened the first time around with George Bush. And Donald Trump is pursuing policies, particularly on the climate front, that are highly dangerous and that the majority of people in the country actually don't agree with. So this illustrates the madness of American politics. How is it that we could have this situation, yet again, a president who represents a minority position? Well, unfortunately, the way our political system is structured, we give state governments tremendous power. And this goes back to the founding of the Republic and the US Constitution. And there was a struggle in the creation of the Constitution about, well, first of all, whether or not there should be a national government. And part of what made that a difficult question was the fact that slavery was already an issue. At the moment of the Revolution, there was during the Revolution and shortly after, there were several states that outlawed slavery. Vermont outlawed slavery, Massachusetts followed suit very soon after, Pennsylvania, other states in the North were already restricting slavery, and immediately, also very crucially, the question of restricting slavery was important for the American Revolution. There was the Somerset case in the UK in the early 1770s, and what the Somerset case did was a planter came to London from the Caribbean with a slave. The slave made contact with abolitionists and escaped, and then launched a suit and said, I'm a free person because there's no slavery in England. It's illegal. Slavery is illegal in England. And so this case went through the process, and the courts ruled that yes, anyone who sets foot in England is free. Doesn't matter your status when you're in Jamaica or somewhere else. And so that fact alone really kind of terrified American planters, many of whom were fabulously wealthy from owning slaves, producing cotton in particular and tobacco. And so for many Southern elites, part of what drove them to rebel against England was this idea of actually protecting slavery. So then in the creation of the US Constitution, the Southern states were very protective of their powers. They were very worried that they would lose their prerogatives, that if there was a national government, this national government might slowly but surely be dominated by states that had restricted slavery and by political interests that opposed slavery. And so there was tremendous resistance, and as a result, we got a constitution in which there's a kind of dual sovereignty, and states have very important forms of control, the local states. In particular, they get to control how elections happen. And in terms of our legislative branch, we have the Senate, the upper house, where every state gets 2 senators, and senators are very powerful. So it doesn't matter what the population is, every state gets 2 senators. Fast forward to the present, more and more of the US population is moving out to the coasts, to highly populated states like California, but California only has 2 senators, New York. And in the interior of the country, there are lots of increasingly depopulated states, all of which have 2 senators, and all of which get to control how their elections happen. So we have the problem rising now of gerrymandering and of voter suppression in these states. That plus the Senate, all that then influences the courts, and what you get is a situation in which a minority president, we now have a minority president for the second time, not a president who is elected by a minority, implementing an unpopular agenda. And far from being an anomaly, people are beginning to realize this could be the new norm because of the demographic transformation of the country. People moving to the coasts, yet we have this political system that empowers these largely empty, not empty, but like these, increasingly depopulated political units, the states in the center of the country. And those are the more conservative areas of the country. And so we're set up for a very intractable kind of a problem where the majority of people want to deal with climate change. this is the majority of people in the United States, they want to deal with climate change. They want a more just distribution of wealth. They would like to increase taxes on the rich. They would like to increase control, governmental regulation over corporations. But they don't have the mechanism to implement this agenda because they don't control enough Senate seats, and they can't control the presidency because the Electoral College is controlled through the states. And so we get Donald Trump. And so, far from Trump being an anomaly, I'm afraid that Trump might just be the moment at which we realize that the largest economy, for the moment, the largest economy in the world, with the largest military in the world, could very easily, for the foreseeable future, be ruled by a right-wing minority of its population. And that has very terrible implications for dealing with the problem of climate change.